everyone. My name is Kelly Ann. I am a bookseller with Mysterious Galaxy, and I have the pleasure of introducing tonight's authors. We are having a little bit of a technical difficulty, so we're hoping our last author, Timothy, can join us soon. But we are here tonight to celebrate Grant Farley. He is the author of Bones of a Saint, which is his debut YA novel. It's a coming-of-age story set in Northern California in the late 70s. And tonight, our conversation partners we have here right now David Putnam, the author of the Bruno Johnson crime series. And hopefully, if we can get our technical issues resolved, we'll have Timothy Hallinan with us too, who is the author of the Poker Freddy thrillers and the Junior Bender mystery series. Before we get started, I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping. You can buy Grant's book using the green Buy Books button right below us, and that will take you to Mysterious Galaxy's website. You can buy the book, and it'll come with a signed book plate. To the right, we have our chat section, and below the Buy Signed Books button, there's the Ask a Question button.
You're echoing on us.
You get a little feedback.
You're getting feedback.
Me.
And you.
Sorry about that, guys. Okay. I think it's gone.
Sound's gone.
Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. But really quickly, before that, I think it might be my headphones. Like I was saying, you can ask a question by clicking that Ask a Question button at the bottom. It'll pop a pop-up window. You can type your questions in there, and then our authors can answer them. And without that, I'm just going to pop offline. So hopefully that all these mic and camera issues will cease. And you guys have a wonderful event. I'll see you at the end.
Thank you.
Thank you. Uh-oh.
Oh, that's John.
Is it you?
Maybe that's.
Are you beamed up?
I don't think it's us. Hey, is that us? What are you doing?
If I talk, it's not doing it on mine, is it? It's yours.
What? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay. Let's get started. Congratulations, Grant. This is a great book.
Thank you.
It's been feedback, right? New York Times mentioned it, and one other. I thought it was USA Today. Maybe somebody could correct me.
Yeah, there's Tim.
There he is. Beautiful.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Amazing. I've had to take the whole thing apart and put it back together. So I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for waiting, sort of. Here we are.
Whew, beautiful.
Thank you guys for coming.
Happy to be here. Okay, so I was saying, I'm getting feedback. I was saying that it's also yet a starred review on Booklist, and I'm having a problem now. And there was one other. You said Library Journal, so this book is generating a lot of heat, and it should, because it's a great book. And I've known Grant for 27 years, I think. He's been in a writers group, and we've heard a number of his books. And I always thought he should have been published a long before now. Two of the books, other books I really enjoyed, and hopefully he'll put them out and get those out there going too. I'll start with the first question. Grant, you sent the book in 1979, is that a time in your life that was most memorable to you? Because I know I like to write in 1980s when I write my books. Right.
Okay, it was 78. When it started,
I'm getting an echo.
the valley in the story is fictional. When it started, I experimented with being out of time, a timeless. What are we doing? Who's doing that? So
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
are we okay?
Yeah.
So originally there was no time period in it, and that just did not work. And then it was a matter of practicality based on two events that happened before the novel begins, that logically it came down to the late 70s. And I picked 78 because it was a pivotal transition year in America. The 60s had come to an end and kind of trailed into the 70s, and where we were going to go from there in the 80s was a very different place. So it was picked sort of a coming-age transitional period in our history.
It does that thing. Put it back in.
You there, Dave?
Yeah, I'm there.
There was a couple people that I wanted to acknowledge. You know that I have a lot in the acknowledgements, but there are two people that professionally this book would not be out there if it wasn't for them. And the number one would be Stephen Barr at Writer's House. I don't know how many agents have looked at this book, a number of which actually accepted it and backed out in all kinds of different stories. And he was just about the last guy I was going to send it to. I don't know. I was at the end. And, you know, Stephen Barr's at Writer's House, which is a big deal publishing house or agent house. And he picked this up out of the slush fund. Of the slush. And that yes from Stephen, without that yes, it wouldn't exist in print. And then, you know, you think when you get an agent, oh, you got it made now. Oh my God. It must have been close to 2 years, 20 publishers before we got Daniel Ehrenhaft at Soho to say yes. So those two guys, without those yeses, without those two yeses, this novel would not have happened.
I have to say that amazes me, because this is as good a first novel as I've ever read. And I think that, I mean, I don't know what they told you, but I think that one of the problems might be that it's sort of between genres. It's sort of an adult novel and it's sort of a not adult novel. And it's, you know, I mean, it's a completely fresh and wonderful book. And I'd like to say that at the outset. I'm so thrilled that you did this. And I'll be really surprised if it doesn't find a niche. I mean, you admit, back when I was trying to claw my way in, you mentioned the New York Times, and I think what's going to happen is that the thing that made it hard to sell, that it's difficult to classify, is what's going to make everybody review it. And I think you're going to do great with it. And I'm really happy for you.
I had it rejected because it was young adult. I had it rejected because it wasn't young adult. I've had it rejected a zillion times on The Voice. I was I don't know if you know the Squaw Valley Writers Conference. I was in a workshop there, and a very prominent writer / critic insisted that this novel would never work in first person present tense voice. And there was many people that said that, and I experimented a lot with changing the voice and always came back to it, mainly because RJ wouldn't let me change it. But yeah, I had young adult agents who accepted the book and then backed out and said, "I'm sorry, this is not young adult." And then I had a literary agent take it, and he said, "Well, we don't really do young adults. I mean, why would you accept it in the first place?" But yeah, it's been all over the place. And thank you.
Everybody says they're looking for something different, and when they get it, they don't recognize it.
Yeah. I think ultimately nowadays it's voice, and an agent or editor, they're going to see that voice in the first few pages.
And the voice is very consistent, and that's what carries the book. Did you take that voice after a student of yours? Did you hear him talking?
Probably way back after all those years, but no, I was working on another novel, and in just literally in the middle of a sentence, his voice comes in my head, RJ's voice. I don't know where it came from. And he started telling me the story of selling his brother's toast. And it was almost word for word. And the only way I was going to get rid of it was to write it down. So I took a notebook, I wrote it down, and I thought, that's the end of it. It's not even a kind of story that I could sell anywhere. So, I had fun. Okay, now I go back to the serious work, right? And I work on that. And a few days later, he came back with another story. And I wrote that down. And after about 6 months, I had about 5 or 6 of these things. I'm going, maybe I have some kind of a short story collection here. I don't know what it was. And then I started thinking it was obvious that he was telling the stories to somebody. So then I started thinking, okay, let's think about that. Who is he telling these stories to? Where is he? And why? And when those 3 questions got answered very quickly, and then that obvious from that point, it was the novel. And then it was a matter of some of the stories ended up in the present tense of this tale, of the story. Some got thrown out, they just didn't fit into the big scheme, and some of them became the tales that are interspersed in. And it was always his voice. Whenever I tried to change things and it was wrong, I could hear him correcting. No, you got it. This is the way I said it. And some of the stories, he would say things and I had no idea what he was saying. What does that have to do with anything? 6 months later, I'm over here in the story and I'm going, oh, that's what that is. So it was probably the most intuitive thing I wrote.
Yeah, writer's miracles. I mean, to most people, this probably sounds semi-schizophrenic, but we know exactly what you're talking about. And we know those voices suddenly coming, and all you can do is listen, write it down. When I read it, my first thought was, this is the best first novel I ever read. And I said that to you, and you immediately told me it wasn't your first novel. But that still puts it in pretty exalted territory, because I read a lot of stuff, and I think you're going to do great with it. I think that I said it once and I'll say it one more time. The thing that made it hard to sell is what's going to make it get reviewed everywhere. And I really hope that's the truth.
I was at a conference and listened to Sue Grafton. And this is when I was a fledgling writer. So it was 20 years ago. And somebody asked her how she writes. And she says, I just sit down at my desk and I wait for the characters to tell me what to write. I thought, oh, you're crazy. And now I realize that, oh, she's exactly right. So that's exactly the way it happens.
Well, you guys write everything in first person, right?
Not me. Sometimes I do third.
Most of what I've read of yours has been, that last one you intersperse it with third. You have first and third. Right. Yeah. Most of my stuff is in third person.
Yeah.
Third person's very comfortable because you can mind hop, which you can't do in first.
Right. You can paint yourself in the corner with that first person real easy.
But you know, this is strictly writer talk because nobody cares what person the book is in. All they care is that it works.
Exactly.
And the thing that worked best for me in the first 30 to 40 pages of this book was simply the kid's voice.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing was, it's one of the most comprehensively imagined settings I've read in a long time. I mean, you know what's around every corner, even if you don't take us around it. And that gave me a kind of confidence in where it was going. And I think all these things add up to the way that you originally either open yourself or don't open yourself to a book. And I don't think anybody's going to start this book anybody except agents and publishers, who doesn't finish it. And I think you're going to do just great with it.
I think the setting was like a same equal level as a character, and it was done with such economy. It was just painted here and there, and like you said, Tim, it was to put us right there in the scene.
I think it was because it was an imaginary setting, the valley is, that I felt more pressure to really work it out and visit it and study it. That's my dog.
Oh.
But I did base a lot of it on the San Fernando Valley growing up back at a time when it is nothing like it is today.
Right. Because the gangs in your book are a lot softer than they are now, and they were softer when they first started out. So I think you did a good job on that.
They're scary enough for me, I have to tell you. Where did okay, let me back off a little bit. When you started, how much of the story had you sort of already intuited? Did you hit the ground knowing that you were going to wind up with the old man and all the rest of that, or did that come as you were?
It's just like I said. The first person, he came in and he started talking, and I only had him, and all the stories are about him as a kid. You know, like the Toto, the electric train, all of that stuff. That was the original story, and there was no set. I knew it was small town. I knew he was Catholic in a Catholic school, and then the valley. I really learned through him a lot of it, and it was really intuitive. And then, of course, there are actual places when you leave the valley, and the Mission San Miguel Archangel. That's the spiritual center of the whole thing.
I was reading some of your reviews on Goodreads, and one person compared you to Hinton, which is really good company to be in. Did you read that one, Grant?
I kind of disagree with that.
Oh, really?
Okay, yeah, it's small town. It's bad boy, and I think hers was first person. I think. But I think, well, hers was an incredible accomplishment, considering she was 18 when she wrote it. But she has this romanticized teenage girl view of what a bad boy is, which I think is very different than what you get in this book. So I get so many people saying it reminds them of The Outsiders, and I don't see it. I think it's almost an
anti. It doesn't matter if you see it, Grant. It's the readers. That's what you want.
But do teenagers read The Outsiders anymore?
I don't know.
Or even adult? I don't know. I mean,
it's a timeless book, and I think that's what they're saying about yours. Yours has a chance of being a timeless book, and that is really saying something.
Thank you.
I also think it's a book that, I mean, I know it's being pitched YA, but I think it's a book. It's just a book. It's not a genre book at all. It's just a book. It's a book about human beings, and some of them happen to be young. It's about an amazingly vividly imagined setting. I mean, I knew every foot of that place by the time, at least all the ones that we went to. And you know, I'm just I just haven't read anything this fresh, and I know drooling is not part of making conversation, but I just haven't read anything this fresh in some time, and I'm really thrilled for you, and I know you're going to do great with it. If anybody's listening who hasn't made up his mind or her mind to buy the book, what are you waiting for?
Thank you.
Be sure to buy it from an independent bookseller too.
Well, we know where.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right here.
That's coming from two very prolific writers. I feel like a slacker when I look at the stack of books that you guys put out. And Dave, I know you read more than any person I know. You're like, you keep Goodreads a lot, you know, going just by yourself, I think.
Tim, what book are you working on? Oh, go ahead,
I'm sorry.
Tim. I was going to ask you, what book are you working on now?
I just finished the 270th Junior Bender book, is what it feels like to me. I think it's the 9th. It's called, I don't know what it's called. It's called Rimshot, and it's about rock and roll. And it's pretty funny. And about 6 months ago, we published the last of my Bangkok books. So I am now loose and goofy and looking for new and it was my choice. But I'm just, you know, I'm just cranking it out the best I can. Whereas he's doing really good work. I mean, I think. What about you? What are you working on? Let's ignore him for a minute.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing a contract book, book number 11 for Bruno Johnson.
Ooh, good for you.
Number 9 comes out next February, and the publisher's reading number 10 right now.
Terrific.
And you're going back almost like prequels, right?
I'm done with the prequels. I had 4 prequels, and now I'm back to current day. In fact, the one I'm writing right now, I'd like to talk to Tim off camera because I'm writing in Costa Rica for the first time. And I know you write that one series in Thailand. You do a great job with it.
Thank you. I did.
Something new for me.
Thank you.
I guess you're going to have to spend some time in Costa Rica.
Yeah. We're planning it.
That's a hardship.
And a tax write-off. Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, being the day it is, I think we need at least a little air and go there, right?
But where did the history, the backstory, and the voice for the old man come from? Because that seems to me to be almost a different novel than the rest of the novel.
Yes, yeah. I had pigeons when I was a kid, and all the stuff about the birds and stuff. You know my sister, okay? And she's all about cats. She's probably on right now. And her cats did all of that to my pigeons. And the connection came to the carrier pigeons. But back when I was 18, traveling through Europe, and we stopped at the battlefield of Verdun. And I was deciding to go to college. And if I didn't go to college, I was going to be drafted into Vietnam. So there was a, you know, I mean, this very visceral thing. And you look out at Verdun, and there's all these rolling hills. And you realize those hills, this was flat land. This is all from bombs, destruction within a 9-month period. And as far as you can see in any direction is crosses. And the person that's there with us, you see there's just nothing for Zach. And he says, yes, and there's could be 5, 6, 7 people buried under each of those crosses. It's just, it's like, I think 1.5 million people died in 9 months of non-continuous. And that always haunted me. And that was going to come out of me somewhere. And you go into the bunkers in there, and these little bunkers, and you think for 9 months human beings survived here. And then I thought of the carrier pigeons and the birds, and what a man who was confined there, releasing these birds and what that would feel like. And so that's where the Verdun stuff came from.
One of the things I love about the book is that you almost never know where it's going. You don't know who's coming next, and there's a character, a young girl who you think is going to be around through the whole book who isn't. And there, it's
give
just
it away.
Yeah, it's a remarkable piece of. Okay, so which novel is this for you? How many have you written?
I have had three that I've completely finished before this one. I've got a couple other messes out there, including the bits and pieces of a trilogy. And then I have a whole bunch. Some of you guys have heard of LA short stories, which is, I think, where my best work is in them. So that's what I got.
What's next?
I am working on a near future fantasy based on Celtic lore and the conflict between someone in our world who sees the only, don't laugh, who sees the only salvation for the imminent destruction of our world by finding a way to that world.
You think you're going to ever give your short stories to the agent to try to market? Because you're right, I've heard some of those short stories, and some are still very memorable, like the Christmas with the woman in a Cadillac. Remember that one? That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Those are great stories.
Called Elemental, and it goes against the idea that people, we're all LA guys, right? People who don't live in LA think like there's no weather here. It's like, we're just in this la la land. And so the stories all have to do with very real, very niche areas that like you guys write about. Like Junior Bender, I love reading them because I just love going to the places that he goes to. It's just amazing. So that's what I like to do in the short stories, is just dig into people and places, and it spans from 1918 to the end of the 20th century, but they're fun.
I liked your Some Assembly Needed. It reminded me of
results may vary.
It reminded me of Ronald Dahl, and I really like that book. I would like to see that one put out there too.
That's a dark, humorous middle grade novel about a guy that finds his dad leaves him one of these old fashioned toolkits for boys. And whenever he makes something supernatural happens as a result of it.
Great story.
Boy, there's no pinning you down to a genre, is there?
No. No.
That's really unusual. Most people think of books in terms of sort of
most of them are young adult in some way. Even the short stories, there's some young person, usually, whether it's just off, kilter or somewhere.
You think that's because of your teaching?
I think so. Yeah, and I've just always loved the genre. What I like about young adult is it's not really a genre. I mean, every genre is within young adult, and at least it used to be a writer could do almost anything there. There was it's not so much anymore, but there was experimenting always going on there. And it was just, it was not rules. It was, somebody want to read this. And that's what attracted me to it.
Was there an element in this book that you had your doubts about when you were writing it?
The voice.
You thought, I don't know if this is going to fly.
Yeah, the first person present voice. It is way, way harder to do than you think. To keep the reader engaged in that voice. Everyone says there's that dreamlike quality, but you don't want to live for 200 and 300 pages in a dream, usually. So you've got to really work to make it nitty gritty real, and yet have that dream feel to the voice. First person present is that was the battle every page. Yeah. Thanks.
I'm
Art.
tempted from time to time to write in present, and I'm not as brave as you are. It kind of scares me because you're sort of saying goodbye to the authorial overview. You know, I mean, theoretically, you don't know what. Anyway, it's that's very interesting to me, and I found that worked great in the book. Absolutely great in the book. So it's hard for me to believe that. When I read a book like this, I tend to think that it arrived in one gigantic gush. And the person was writing as fast as he or she could to get it down, because it feels like that. Even when all of a sudden it takes a gigantic turn that you had no idea was coming. And here's this mansion and this old man, you know, I mean, it's just such good work. I know this is what we didn't come here to tell you how wonderful you are, but that's what I feel like doing.
Oh, shucks.
Grant, who are your favorite authors? Who inspired this?
That's a funny question. I don't know how. To me, when I look back at my life, being old now, you go through different stages, don't you? And that writer, you know, when I was 20 years old, Hermann Hesse was God, you know, and then you evolve through every period. There's a period where Huck Finn was just everything. My latest, I would say, is Murakami. I've had to read everything by Murakami. Just, you know, I advocate for him to be our next Nobel Prize winner. And what else? I do like the noirs like you guys write. Because I like LA so much, and I think LA is like to noir what New Orleans is to jazz. And just to get into that and follow you guys through different parts of LA and Southern California, I really like that.
There's something about dark deeds done in bright sunlight.
Good.
You know, that it just really works when it works. I can't just keep praising you.
Yeah, well,
but that's what I feel like doing. If anybody out there wants to read something unlike anything they've read in the last 8 or 10 years, this is the book. It will surprise you. It's a marvelous piece of work. I'm so glad I know you. I just can't.
Wow.
And that you're your dad's kid, to get personal for a minute, because he was one of the great men of my life.
Yeah, you've said that. I really appreciate that.
What a guy. You know.
Yeah.
Well, you said this is your fourth book that you've written, I think you said, but plus a couple in a drawer. I was on my 38th book before I sold the 36.
I know.
So it took me a little longer to figure it out.
I know. No, I'm a slacker. I'm definitely a slacker. Yeah. Teaching, I think we got a lot of teachers on here. And teaching is an amazing profession that people don't realize what it takes. The energy and creativity that go beyond just the hours you put in. And you meet so many writers who think, well, I can teach, and, you know, I'll have my summers or whatever. And, oh yeah, I'm out at 3 and all of that. Even if that was true, which it isn't, at 3 o'clock, man, you're beat. You know, it's like, if there's anybody out there that's a teacher that wants to write, I would say you need to pick one or the other, really.
I attribute my reading to my 5th grade teacher, because every day after lunch we'd come in, she'd turn the light off, and she read The Hobbit, The Bronze Bow, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I looked forward to that, and I started reading everything to get my hands on based on what that teacher did. So she was really an influence.
I tried to read to my kids a lot in class, even the high school, in high school, just to hear the sound of the language. Yeah. Steinbeck, I love Steinbeck.
Oh, Steinbeck was great. I think I read all Steinbeck in one summer. I discovered him, and I just read them all at once.
My grandparents lived in Carmel, and that was a real special place for me, going summers and spring, and sometimes my parents sent me up there on the bus, and that was a magical place for me. And going to, first time with Cannery Row, and then I found out that the house my grandparents lived in was Lincoln Steffen's house before that, and that they'd had meetings there with people like Doc Ricketts and all. And I was an adult by then, but yeah, Steinbeck was just, for me, he was.
Did your writing discipline change from the time that you retired? Is that why you finished this book, or was this book going on?
No, this book was finished way before I retired.
Really?
I've been wasting my whole retirement on the next book. Yeah, you do one every 6 months. I do one every 8 years. And then I did a lot of I plowed through stories when I first retired. I didn't work on a novel at all. I just got into that. Yeah.
I got into a discipline where I wrote 1,000 words a day, even working full time. I'd get up at 4 o'clock and I'd write for 3 hours and then go to work. And that's how I got the 38 manuscripts done.
I did that for a little while, where I got up at 4 o'clock and I would get an hour and a half in before school when I was still fresh. That lasted a couple weeks.
I write every day, even if I don't have anything to write. I write every day. I just make something up and write it. Right now I'm working on a book set mostly at Warner Brothers in 1932.
Oh, very nice.
That might be the beginning of a series featuring a young woman protagonist. And that's a lot of fun for me because it's so far off the beaten track. I've got maybe 12 words. No, I'm at probably 5 to 7,000 words right now. And I don't know about you, either of you, but there comes a time when the feeling that you have that you're pushing the story up the hill all of a sudden changes and you feel like you're chasing it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't gotten there yet. And we'll see whether I ever do.
That's the time. That's the moments as a writer you live for.
Yep.
Yeah. That's the drug that you're trying to constantly chase down.
Have you read?
It just clicks, and you just. Have
you read the Stuart Kaminsky series? The Toby something. It was set in Hollywood. It's Stuart Kaminsky did a great job with that.
Yeah, I read one of them a long time ago. Yeah. A long time ago.
He took a famous movie star, and each book was fashioned around that movie star. A murder within the. I like Kaminsky.
You guys, you're LA writers.
Yeah. Well, what are you? I mean,
you're
in LA. I mean,
I'm LA's totally. I'm LA all the way through. Yeah. It's funny. I gave up correcting the New York people about this book. It's not set in Northern California. It's set on the Central Coast, California. They don't see that's like the same thing, yeah.
Well, most people think there's a Northern California, Southern California. They don't think, in central terms.
Yeah.
You should tell them it's on the East Coast of California and see whether they're paying attention.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't think you're going to have trouble with editors for a while. I mean, I think they're going to be phoning you up.
Yeah.
I had a great editor here, though. I tell you, he was totally simpatico with RJ. Yeah, I was like, yeah. Some people get it. Some people just get it. And that's amazing when you get readers that do that.
Well, I have to say, I've written like 460 books, and I've never had an editor write something like you got at the beginning of this book.
From Daniel?
I opened that, and it was like, I wanted to throw the book across the room. Why not me, Lord? And then I read the book, and I knew why.
I don't know if Daniel is out there somewhere, I think.
Yeah, he was on there a minute ago.
I can't paraphrase it, but it was something like it was the first book in his quite a career as an editor where he felt that there wasn't a word that he thought he wanted to change. I might be exact. I don't know if he comes on, if he can correct that a little bit.
Did some people want to ask questions? How does that work? Check the chat.
It says there are 4 questions.
Oh, should we go to questions now, you guys?
How you get to them, I have no idea.
Mary's got them. What scene was the most rewarding to write? What was the most challenging part of this book?
The most rewarding scene to write was
Yeah, you talked about that.
the confirmation chapter, where the girl, Roxanne comes into the chapel to be confirmed, and RJ.
We're having a sound fade again.
Yeah, you're fading out, Grant.
Whatever happened before, you've gone almost completely inaudible.
Uh-oh.
That's better. Just stay close.
Okay, so the chapter was the one in the chapel, the confirmation chapter, where Roxanne asks him to be confirmed. That was the chapter that for me most captured me.
Another question is this going to be a standalone or a series?
Standalone.
Standalone. That's going to disappoint a lot of people.
No, it's standalone. The next one will be better.
Yeah, but you might be coerced by your editor to look on another one.
I don't think that Soho does series of young adult. They do. I think they do multiple by author, but I don't think I've seen it.
Oh yeah, they do series. Soho does series.
They do when they're crime. They're very big on series in their crime, like with Jim. But I don't know. But no, it's not a series. No way.
Okay, that's all the. Oh, there's more questions here. Well, a lot of these you've already answered. This one's from Dan Houston. As a Chicano writer, I was intrigued how Latino RJ seemed.
Which one? There's a lot of them, and yeah, Nino is in some ways my favorite character because it was the one that was the most out of my comfort zone, and I really had to try and. What do you mean wonky? Is my voice wonky on here?
It's just low.
A lot of trouble.
Low volume.
Yeah.
Well, what good would headphones do me?
Much better.
It's better now. What did you do?
Don't break things. It's
Is it
okay.
sounding any better?
That's a lot
Yeah.
better. It's a lot better already.
Am I sounding any better?
Yes.
No, I can't hear you guys.
Much better. Can you hear me now?
No.
Can you hear me
Well,
now?
just take it off because you were doing fine. There, say something.
Can you hear us now?
He froze. Technical problems.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
No.
No?
Uh-oh.
I
It's
did.
either a joke or it isn't.
I unplugged and they're on the floor. Say something.
Hello?
I can hear you a little bit.
Okay.
I could sing.
No one said anything about
Good
that,
time to
Jim.
go deaf. Good time to go deaf. Can you hear us now?
I can hear you if you talk really loud.
Okay, we'll start talking louder.
Is
Are there
there?
any more questions?
Yeah.
Dan
I'm sorry.
Houston, if he's on, it's a big deal because he's never on the computer.
You what?
Dan Houston.
Oh, yeah. Okay, here's one. Dan Houston said that he was cut off mid-question. So I'll read them together. As a Chicano writer, I was intrigued how at Latino RJ scene cut me off mid-question and wondered if that your intention is that he was enveloped in a part of California where Mexican Americans have always figured.
I'm not sure what the question out of that was. Yeah, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay.
But Dan helped me. I can say this. Dan helped me a lot with the Spanish, getting the Spanish right in those scenes.
Oh, is it going down there? So, you have anything else to say, Grant?
I'm good.
You're good. Well, there she is.
All right. Hi, everyone. So
Well, thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant.
thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight and sticking with it through all of our technical difficulties. The authors did an amazing job at just powering through, and we are so thankful for hosting you guys tonight. Everyone in the audience, thank you for watching and bearing with us through that. We hope you had fun despite some of our technical difficulties. And just a reminder, you can buy Grant's new book, his debut, by clicking that green Buy Books with Signed Book Plates button. That'll take you directly to Mysterious Galaxy, where you can check out and you'll get a signed book plate automatically. Thanks again, guys, for joining us, and we'll see you at the next time. And one last round of applause for our authors. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Aaron Gobra.